Welcome to Not Entirely Unlike Tea with Christine Collins. Hey there, this is Christine Collins, and something that comes up really often, especially in the entrepreneurial realm, but really human realms in general, is the concept of perfectionism, which has to do with continuously, compulsively working on a project or an activity until it comes across as being perfect to you or perfect in general. Some people are led to ask the question, could this be similar to an addiction pattern? And when it comes to the neuroscience and the psychology underlying it, it's definitely related to patterns of addiction in many ways. One has to do with dopamine reward circuitry. So every time someone who considers themselves a perfectionist is achieving the standards that they are looking for, they get a little dopamine reward burst. But very similar to other addictions, that threshold for satisfaction will keep rising each time, requiring increasingly perfect performance in order to achieve that same result and to get that same reward feeling. In contrast, when that perfectionist feels as though they are falling short or not achieving their aims of perfection, the amygdala triggers anxiety and threat responses. There's cortisol levels spiking, and that creates a state of aversion for them that they learn to avoid through future behaviors. Then the anterior cingulate cortex and the orbitofrontal cortex get locked into looking for errors, looking for corrections, looking for things to edit, change, and perfect, which continues to drive forward that perfectionistic thinking. Very similar to what we might see in OCD patterns. And so with repetition, there becomes habit formation, and the patterns become encoded. There can also be some impairment to the prefrontal cortex function from all of that chronic stress that's coming out of not feeling perfect enough. And that can make it more difficult to change the rigid patterns. So basically, the brain becomes dependent on this perfectionism or perfectionistic behavior patterns in order to regulate emotions, in order to feel good at all, in order to achieve a reward at all of any kind. And at the same time, the neural circuits that are responsible for flexibility and balance kind of become weaker. So where do these patterns come from? Well, it's probably not very surprising at all that they may come out of early childhood with some type of reinforcement of a belief that the person is only worthy if they're perfect. And those early behavior patterns of perfectionism are reinforced at a young enough age that it becomes a pattern. There can also be external validation that leads to that reward system. There may be punishment involved with not achieving perfection. And compiled with that, there may be cognitive distortions that are built over time. Basically, belief systems and thought patterns that if it's not perfect, it's completely useless, it's no good at all, and similar types of thoughts. There may be catastrophizing about minor flaws. There may be a repetitive pattern of discounting if there is any positive feedback or compliments, so discounting compliments. And then a hypervigilance around perfection. There may also be reinforcement from society that praises high standards and perfectionistic behaviors, professional environments that may reward overworking. And when it comes to breaking free from these patterns or healing these patterns or shifting these patterns if desired, it can be a combination of tools like self-compassion, learning how to tolerate imperfection, learning how to build self-worth that's separate from perfection. And in some cases, it can be beneficial to heal some of those older childhood experiences or belief systems. So shifting belief systems and thought patterns can be highly beneficial. And there are many tools that are useful for that. Hypnosis is only one of many. Learning how to rewire the reward system. So learning how to practice good enough, even employing deliberate imperfection. Learning how to celebrate small wins and small progress. So that can help to develop new associations with self-compassion, and it can help to create new dopamine reward systems that reprogram the neural circuits to find reward in a balanced small achievement versus perfection. It's also helpful to work on stress response regulation. And that can be done in many different ways, including mindfulness, meditation, hypnosis, various different types of self-care activities, deep breathing, activating the vagus nerve, progressive muscle relaxation, tools like yoga nidra, to help to reduce cortisol and stress, and strengthen the prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotional response. Mindfulness can be particularly useful, just observing, noticing, paying attention to when these things are cropping up and in what types of situations or scenarios perfectionism is most likely to arise. And that could be different per individual. And ultimately, learning how to build new neural pathways, new belief systems, new thought patterns that imperfect is good enough is okay. Working on self-compassion and self-acceptance and growth mindset, using that neuroplasticity to create a new practice and behaviors that stem out of those thought patterns. Building social connections and relationships with other people who may be having similar experiences can also be very helpful, and kind of talking to each other about being imperfect and making that really safe and really okay. Building new neural pathways requires consistency and repetition, and that is one among many reasons why I think recorded hypnosis is an incredibly valuable tool, not only for perfectionism, but for many other types of behavior patterns that we wish to shift or change. It's a very easy, relaxing, and highly effective method for transforming very old thought patterns and belief systems that lead to these types of behaviors that can create tremendous stress, and learning how to alleviate that stress, create new thought patterns, new behaviors, and new beginnings. So I hope you found this to be helpful and insightful. If you are interested in hypnosis, you can feel free to check out my hypnosis membership. There is a special opportunity for podcast listeners. All of that is available in the show notes. And until we connect the next time, I wish you a most magical and creative rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This is Christine Collins at transformcreate.com.